By far, the hardest part of being a VR fanboy is the fact that half the time I'm recommending a Meta product, something most people aren't comfortable with, for a good reason, but I don't really have a choice. The Quest is, at the moment, still the easiest, most convenient way to get somebody into VR. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish the right company was at the forefront of this gaming revolution. And by right company, I mean, yes, you saw it in the thumbnail, you saw it in the title, you know what this is about. Nintendo should be the one doing this, and before you jump down my throat, the Labo doesn't count. Get real. That is like Google Cardboard with extra steps and more expensive. It's not VR. Nintendo, please do the right thing and get into VR for real. This area needs you. This is the next revolution. I have been obsessed with VR for as long as I can remember, way before this is something that you could just go to your local Best Buy and try and take home. And I took forever to actually jump into VR because I never really had a gaming PC. I'm a console/retro gamer through and through, and upgrading my computer is just not something I used to do. So I was following what Oculus was doing in the VR space, and when they started announcing, or rather, when rumors started floating about a standalone device, something that at the time seemed almost miraculous, I was really excited. The idea of just putting on a headset and, turning it on and jumping into VR gaming, that's what I always wished we would one day get, and that's what we finally got. But then when Oculus was bought by Facebook, then called Facebook, now Meta, people were concerned, and it's not entirely without merit. Now, it could be argued that if Meta, I guess at the time still Facebook, hadn't bought Oculus, we might not have the Quest anymore, right? It is a niche thing, so the money and the focus that Facebook brought to the table was definitely a step in the right direction in popularizing VR. But again, that's the problem. Popularizing a console made by Meta, of all companies. I'm thankful, for sure. That's the uneasy alignment here. If it weren't for Facebook, for Zuckerberg showing a legitimate interest in this technology, what are you gonna do? But that's the uncomfortable reality of the situation. Often when I'm talking about the Quest and I'm getting my friends excited to try it and everything, it's inevitable. Somebody brings up the Meta connection, and there's all the unethical things Zuckerberg has been doing over the last decade and a half, I guess, maybe longer. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough sell for a lot of people. Would be the case if Nintendo got off their asses and realized that this is where gaming should go next. And honestly, it's weird to me to have to prove that to somebody, but that's the position I found myself in a couple of days ago when I was trying to tell people that in my vision, Nintendo should be the name in VR for a bunch of different reasons. First of all, Nintendo was experimenting with, huge air quotes here, VR way back in the 90s, and the air quotes, of course. If you've ever tried, or at least even seen, the Virtual Boy, you know that the name virtual is doing a lot of heavy lifting. This wasn't really virtual reality. It's like barely 3D. The technology wasn't quite there, and no wonder the game failed horribly. It's one of Nintendo's worst failures. Perhaps that's why they're a little weary about going back into the virtual space. But Nintendo has been all about revolutionizing things. Even before we knew about the Wii, there was this rumor, this whole fake video making the rounds on the internet. This is like pre-YouTube days. I don't even remember where I saw this video first. I'm talking about Nintendo On, which was a very well put together video that was supposed to be Nintendo's next console. And in the video, there was a bit of a virtual reality element. There was a headset, and the video showed the gamer actually walking around in physical space to make that movement in the game. The internet was such a quaint place back then. A lot of us bought that video. It wasn't until, well, this atrocity showed up that we realized something was a little bit off, but at least I still hoped that maybe that was the direction Nintendo would go. And when the Wii came out, it wasn't exactly what that fake video showed, but it was still in the direction of, hey, how about we use your bodies to interact with the game rather than just buttons, right? With the DS, Nintendo was also trying to bring new things to the table with the touchscreen and the voice command. Well, nobody really used the voice commands that much, but they were trying, is my point. The Virtual Boy, the DS, the Wii, Nintendo is all about changing things up, right? So it's kind of disappointing that they don't see VR as a viable strategy. And you know what's funny? Because I feel like they were tapping into something that is what we ended up getting with VR. If you remember Red Steel, one of the biggest disappointments in my gaming life, it was now we can more accurately describe it as sort of like House of the Dead, the old on-rails shooter from arcades. It was slightly less linear than your typical arcade light gun shooter, but it was still pretty linear, and the movements were it was a Wii, right? We all bought it under the assumption that we're going to be interacting with our bodies inside the game, and for the most part, the illusion kind of worked. Wii Sports is still a lot of fun, but it was far from what we thought we would get, especially based on the trailers for games like Red Steel. Now, if I want to play something like Red Steel, I'd have to wait many, many years until we got VR FPSs, true VR FPSs, like Contractors. If you follow me on social media, you probably know that I'm addicted to that game. I've mentioned it here in the channel before. I play it every night with my buddies. It really brings back a lot of memories of getting into online matches with my friends, Counter-Strike, Age of Empires, that sort of stuff. I missed that in my life, and it's nice to have it back. But my point is, it would make so much sense for Nintendo to be leading the charge here, and I would feel so much more comfortable recommending a Nintendo product rather than a Meta product. Now, personally, the privacy issues don't concern me that much, and I swear. And the reason for that is because I have worry fatigue at this point, right? Between Microsoft knowing everything about me, and Google knowing everything about me, and Twitter knowing everything about me, and Meta already knowing everything about me, I figured, so what if they see my walls and my couch? I'm not super concerned, but I'm not saying that that's the attitude you should have. I'm just saying, myself personally, I don't care anymore. These companies already have everything about me that they could possibly want. They already have things like my credit card information, my address. I don't mind. Give me virtual guns that I can shoot my friends in the face with. I sign my rights. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I know this sounds really irresponsible, but I'm just being honest. I honestly can't care anymore. I've already accepted that privacy is a myth. It's not a thing we have anymore. So it's like a small price to pay type situation. They already had everything on me before. Now I get to relive classic Call of Duty memories in virtual space with my buds, right? Again, I think that Labo wasn't that well received, and they already have history with the Virtual Boy. Neither one of those is true VR, right? But I can see how Nintendo would put out that half-assed effort with Labo and then kind of going see, nobody cares about this VR stuff, so we tried it, right? That's kind of the vibe I get from them. It's a real shame, especially because VR could use the competition. I mentioned that the Quest is kind of the only game in town. That's not entirely true. There are other ways to get into VR, but this is the most foolproof way. It's the most widely available and the most convenient. So again, I wish it weren't the case, but what am I supposed to do? Here's hoping Nintendo will get back to that, let's revolutionize everything in the gaming space spirit, because that's truly who could do this the best, I think. Of course, they suck at managing an online experience, so probably it wouldn't be as easy to get a contractor's lobby going on a Nintendo console, I would imagine. But again, some competition would be great. And just imagine the first-party Nintendo experiences in VR. Now, speaking of classic Nintendo experiences in VR, you can sort of already do that. In VR Chat, which is more like a social network than a game, users have recreated certain Nintendo experiences like Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time. It is multiplayer, and the most hilarious part is because you can basically wear any skin you want in the game. You can play Majora's Mask as the Terminator or the Xenomorph, which, as far as I'm concerned, worth it. But of course, a true official Nintendo experience would be so much better. Even if I can't explore Hyrule as Deadpool, still would be so cool. But what do you think? Let me know as always in the comments down below. That's all the time I have for today. Don't forget, for the love of God, to like and subscribe. I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning of the video, right? I'm really bad at this YouTube thing. I hope you'll help me out. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, notification bell, send this to your friends, your lovers, your haters, whoever. That's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy, and I'm done.